"You're not really our kind, dear," Patricia said with a honeyed smile, bearing the entrance to her opulent home. The glow of the Christmas tree flickered through the grand bay window behind her, illuminating a dining table set with polished silver and heirloom china. "We prefer to keep our Christmas dinner intimate." I stood motionless in the snow, the homemade apple pie cradled in my hands, its warmth quickly leaching into the frigid December air. My breath curled in misty tendrils before me. Beside Patricia, my husband, James, shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. The silence was deafening. "My name is Olivia." I was 32, and this was supposed to be my first Christmas with my husband's family. We had been married for 6 months, but despite my efforts to bridge the gap, the Harrisons had made their disdain clear. A simple girl from a middle-class background was not the future they had envisioned for their golden boy. "But James and I are married," I said, steadying my voice, determined not to waver. "That makes me family." Patricia's smile widened, sickly sweet, her red lips curving with something close to amusement. "Marriage is just a legal contract, dear. It doesn't grant you class." She let the last word linger in the cold air like an unspoken accusation. Over her shoulder, I spotted James's sisters, Madison and Elizabeth, whispering, their designer gowns catching the chandelier light in delicate shimmers. His father, Richard, stood by the fireplace, his back deliberately turned. I turned to James, my heart lodged in my throat. "James?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Maybe it's better if you go home, Liv," he mumbled. "I'll talk to them. We can celebrate tomorrow, just us." The betrayal struck harder than the winter wind. I had spent 6 months enduring their subtle jabs, showing up to their charity functions, playing the part of the dutiful wife, only to be dismissed like an unwelcome guest. "Of course," I said, gripping the pie dish tighter. "Enjoy your intimate dinner." As I turned, Patricia called after me. "Owen dear, you can leave the pie. We already have one from Constantine's Bakery, the best in the city." I didn't stop. The pie was mine. A recipe passed down through generations from a grandmother who had taught me that love was measured in effort, not in price tags. The drive home was a blur of snow and city lights. Boston lay beneath a pristine white blanket, serene and indifferent to my humiliation. I pulled up to our apartment, quaint as the Harrisons called it, and let the first tears fall in the quiet of the car. My phone buzzed. A message from James. "They just need time. Don't take it personally." I exhaled shakily, as if being turned away from my husband's family home. Told I wasn't good enough, wasn't deeply personal. Another buzz. Madison this time. "Nothing personal, Olivia. But Christmas at the Harrisons is a tradition. Maybe next year, if you've improved." Attached was a picture of them around the dinner table, all smiles, crystal flutes raised in a toast. I wiped my tears and straightened my shoulders. They didn't know about the letter I'd received last week, the one I had planned to share tonight, foolishly thinking it might change how they saw me. Another buzz. "Sophie, my best friend. Still on for New Year's. The renovations are almost done." A slow smile crept onto my lips. They had no idea. My grandmother hadn't just left me her pie recipe. She had left me everything. The historic Hamilton House, one of the most coveted estates in New England, now belonged to me. The very property the Harrisons had been vying to purchase for years. And in just a few weeks, it would be the setting for the most prestigious event of the season. "Definitely," I texted back. "Send out the invitations tomorrow. Make sure the Harrisons get theirs." I set the pie on the counter and unfolded my grandmother's letter once more. "My dearest Olivia," it read, "Hamilton House isn't just bricks and mortar. It's a legacy. True class isn't about where you come from, but how you carry yourself. Use it wisely." Oh, I intended to. James called 3 times that night. Each one went to voicemail. Tomorrow, I would deal with his apologies. Tonight, I had a party to plan and a lesson in class to deliver. As my grandmother always said, living well is the best revenge. The next morning, James found me methodically packing my suitcase. "Liv, please," he murmured, lingering in the doorway like a shadow. "You know how they are. They'll come around." I folded a sweater with careful precision, my movements slow, deliberate. "You're right, James. I do know how they are now. And more importantly, I know how you are too." His brow creased. What's that supposed to mean? I met his eyes in the mirror, my expression unwavering. It means I watched my husband stand by in silence while his family humiliated his wife on Christmas Day. And that tells me everything I need to know. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair, a habit I once found endearing. Now it felt like a performance. Where are you even going? Sophie's. I zipped up my suitcase. I need space to think. I did mention that Sophie's meant Hamilton House. That revelation could wait. James's phone buzzed, the screen flashing with a new message. Madison's name. I caught the words before he could turn it over. Daddy's furious about Olivia's dramatic exit last night. She's embarrassing the family name. A hollow laugh escaped my lips. Your sister seems quite concerned about the family name, I said coolly. You should go comfort her. Liv, don't be like this. Like what, James? Someone who expects basic decency. Someone who thought her husband would stand up for her. I pulled up my suitcase handle. You should go. I'm sure they're waiting for you at their precious after-Christmas brunch. He reached for my arm as I passed, his touch hesitant. At least tell me when you're coming back. I gently pried his fingers away. When I figure out if I want to. The drive to Hamilton House wound through Boston's historic district, past elegant townhouses and manicured gardens. My grandmother's home, now mine, stood at the end of Beacon Street, its red brick facade and stately white columns exuding quiet power. Sophie was already waiting on the front steps, clipboard in hand. The contractors just finished the ballroom, she announced as I stepped out. Wait until you see it. Inside, the house was a breathtaking fusion of historic charm and modern refinement. Crystal chandeliers gleamed from carved ceilings, state-of-the-art lighting accentuating century-old artwork. The ballroom, framed by floor-to-ceiling windows and a marble fireplace, stole my breath. The invitations went out this morning, Sophie continued, including a special hand-delivered one to the Harrison family. A slow smile curled my lips. I could already picture Patricia's expression when she received the embossed invitation to the most coveted event of the season. The Hamilton House New Year's Eve party had been a Boston institution for decades, until my grandmother's illness put it on hold. Now, its revival was the talk of the city. Any responses yet? Sophie glanced at her phone. 3 already, including Elizabeth Harrison. She called twice to confirm it wasn't a mistake. Oh, it's no mistake. I ran a hand along the mahogany banister as we ascended the grand staircase. They wanted class. They'll get it. The RSVPs flooded in over the next few days. Politicians, art collectors, socialites. James called daily, his messages growing increasingly bewildered. I let them go to voicemail. A week before New Year's Eve, I was reviewing the catering menu when the doorbell rang. Through the ornate glass panels, I spotted Patricia Harrison standing stiffly on my porch, clutching the invitation as if it might burn her fingers. I opened the door slowly, savoring the way her gaze flickered over the grand foyer behind me. Mrs. Harrison, I greeted smoothly. What a surprise. Olivia? Her eyes darted from me to the house. What are you doing here? I leaned against the doorframe, unhurried. I live here. Would you like to come in? The contractors just installed the new Italian marble in the conservatory. She hesitated before stepping inside, her designer heels clicking against the polished herringbone floors. But this is Hamilton House. It belongs to my grandmother, I supplied. And now it belongs to me. Shock, disbelief, and then something close to panic rippled across her face. You're Eleanor Hamilton's granddaughter. The very same. I gestured to the drawing room, where framed photographs of my grandmother and me graced the mantel. Tea. Patricia lowered herself into an antique armchair, still gripping the invitation. But you're a librarian. You live in that little apartment. I poured tea into my grandmother's Wedgwood cups, unbothered. I am a librarian, and I love my job. But I chose that apartment because it was convenient. I swept a hand toward the vaulted ceiling, the sprawling estate. This is my heritage. Her gaze lingered on the grand staircase, the priceless artwork. And the New Year's Eve party? It's really happening here? It is. I set a cup of tea in front of her. Consider your family's invitations my Christmas gift, since I wasn't able to give you my pie. Her lips parted, understanding dawning. She had spent years vying for a seat among Boston's elite, only to throw away a connection to its true aristocracy. Does James know? Not yet. I sat back, crossing my legs. I had planned to tell everyone at Christmas dinner, but, well, we know how that turned out. She set down her teacup with trembling fingers. Olivia, there seems to have been a misunderstanding. I arched a brow. No misunderstanding, Mrs. Harrison. You made your feelings quite clear. I rose, signaling the conversation's end. I look forward to seeing you at the party, if you choose to attend, of course. I wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable around people who aren't your kind. Her mouth pressed into a thin line, but she said nothing as I walked her to the door. She hesitated on the threshold, taking in the towering crystal chandelier one last time. Then, without another word, she stepped outside. The door clicked shut behind her with a finality that sent satisfaction humming through me. Somewhere across the city, James was probably still wondering why I hadn't answered his calls. He would find out soon enough. They all would. Hamilton House's New Year's Eve party was 4 days away, and I had a statement to make. New Year's Eve arrived with a soft layer of snow, making Hamilton House look like a magical place. Twinkling lights decorated the garden, and inside, the ballroom was warm and bright from the crystal chandeliers. I stood at the top of the grand staircase, adjusting my grandmother's sapphire necklace. My blue silk dress was simple but elegant, just like my grandmother always said, true class doesn't need to be loud. They're here, Sophie said beside me. The Harrisons just arrived. All of them. I watched from above as they walked in. Patricia wore an expensive new dress. Richard looked uncomfortable in his tuxedo, and Madison and Elizabeth whispered excitedly. Then there was James, my husband, his eyes searching the crowd, looking nervous. Mrs. Hamilton Pierce, the butler announced, using my full name for the first time. The room fell silent as I walked down the stairs. James's face showed shock, confusion, and then understanding. He started to move toward me, but Sophie smoothly stepped in his way. Welcome to Hamilton House, I said to everyone. My grandmother loved this party. She believed in bringing people together to celebrate new beginnings. Tonight, we continue that tradition. The evening was lively. I greeted guests, shared memories of my grandmother, and watched as many people came to pay their respects to Eleanor Hamilton's granddaughter. The Harrisons stood in their own little group, watching everything. Finally, James managed to reach me. Why didn't you tell me? He asked quietly. I tried, I said. I was going to announce it at Christmas dinner, but I wasn't good enough for your family's table. Liv, I'm so sorry. If I had known. That's the problem, I interrupted. It shouldn't matter who my family is or what I own. You should have stood up for me because I'm your wife. Before he could answer, Patricia appeared. Olivia, darling, she said sweetly, as if she hadn't thrown me out of her house a week ago. What a wonderful party. Just like your grandmother's. You know, I always admired Eleanor. Did you? I asked with a polite smile. Funny, she never mentioned you. Patricia hesitated. Well, we were in the same social circles. My grandmother welcomed everyone, Mrs. Harrison. She taught me that true class isn't about money or status. It's about how you treat people. I looked at both her and James. That's why I'm announcing tonight that Hamilton House will become a cultural center. We'll have reading programs for kids, art classes for the community, and this New Year's Eve party will continue, but as a charity event. James stared. You're opening the house to the public, to everyone, I said. No one will be judged for who they are. Later that night, just before midnight, James found me in the library, my grandmother's favorite room. I've been a fool, he admitted. Yes, you have. Can we start over? Try again. I looked at him, really seeing him for the first time. That depends. Will you stand by me, even when it means standing up to them? I will, he said firmly. I should have done it long ago. You're my family, Liv. The rest is just noise. Prove it, I told him. Help me with the cultural center. Show me you understand what really matters. James glanced around the room, the books, the cozy chairs, the pictures of my grandmother teaching me to read. I'd like that, he said softly. I want to be part of this. At midnight, as people cheered in the ballroom, I thought about my grandmother's words, use the house wisely. Looking at James's hopeful face, Patricia's embarrassed one, and the joy this house could bring to others, I knew I had found my way. Happy New Year, I said, holding out my hand. James took it, knowing this wasn't forgiveness yet, but a chance to earn it. Happy New Year, Liv. Sometimes the best way to move forward isn't revenge, it's rising above. It's turning pain into something good. As the first notes of Auld Lang Syne played, I smiled. This really was a fresh start, not just for me and James, but but for everyone who would step through these doors in the years to come. Because that's what real class is.